and welcome to the first edition of Crowd Ask It, where the audience controls the interview. I'm Sophie DeRosier, and I'm here today with a very successful local businessman here in Ottawa, Jeff Hunt. Jeff is not only the owner of the Ottawa 67s Junior Hockey Club, but also the president of the Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group, which is responsible for bringing the CFL back to the capital with the Red Blacks. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Oh, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So over the past hour, we've opened up our forum to viewers to submit their questions. We're just going to dive right in. So the first one is submitted by Jay Smith. This will be the third time that a CFL team has been in Ottawa. How do you not let history repeat itself, and what's different now than the previous CFL teams in Ottawa?
Well, one of the things that I always tell fans is, a CFL team or a sports team is no different than any other business. In other words, if you had a poorly run restaurant, with a bad environment and bad food, and it didn't go out of it went out of business, you wouldn't say Ottawa doesn't support restaurants. You'd say a poorly run restaurant doesn't work anywhere, and a poorly run sports team doesn't work anywhere. And poorly run is maybe a little harsh. The whole experience of what CFL football was at the end is just way below what expectations are today of a pro sports experience. The stadium was run down, and there's probably 5 or 6 of the top 10 reasons why the CFL team failed that are directly linked to the building, because so many things affect the fan experience in the building: the seats, the washrooms, the concessions, the audio system, the video system or lack of thereof. Just the whole experience was second rate, and then you add to that, in the case of the last football, I mean they had difficulty competing with the rest of the teams in the league financially, particularly as it related to player costs. The CFL was a whole different league back then. Teams, there was no salary cap really, and Ottawa couldn't compete. So as a result of that, they had a bad team on the field as well. Sure, they were an expansion team, but what really hurt them was their inability to compete for player salaries. So, it really isn't so mysterious. A poorly run business doesn't succeed anywhere. What's going to be different this time? We think, first off, the stadium is going to be night and day. The whole experience and all the things I just mentioned will be at a level that people expect in Ottawa or any other city in the world when it comes to an elite, high-end sporting event. You're gonna get that at Lansdowne at TD Place, and now the league has changed substantially with the salary cap. Nobody has got a competitive disadvantage anymore. Every team spends to the cap, and so really what it comes down to is our ability to draft and trade for and recruit players that are going to give us the best chance of winning. So, what's different? Everything.
That's a good answer. Our next question was submitted by Goalgetter. He wants to know, has the operation of the Red Blacks and other teams taken focus away from the 67s? And what are you planning when the team moves downtown to show fans the 67s are still a top priority for you?
If I had to be truthful, it's probably the case that with everything that we've been dealing with getting the Redbacks up and running, getting the Ottawa Fury up and running, of course they're up and running now, and getting Lansdowne rebuilt, the 67s haven't gotten the attention they normally would, and that's going to change. We had 2 years at Canadian Tire Centre, and it's a great building. However, what really hurt us out there was playing off nights, playing Tuesday nights, playing Wednesday nights, playing Thursday nights. Whether we were at Canadian Tire Centre or Civic Centre, we would not do well on those nights. And so, it's been a tough 2 years, both on and off the ice for the Ottawa 67s. I can tell you now we're coming back to TD Place. You're going to see the team relaunched, both on and off the ice, and you can be sure that the 67s are going to get all the attention they deserve. And I think you're going to see us come back to what fans expect of the Ottawa 67s, and that's a winning team.
That'll keep you busy.
Yes.
So our next question is from John Felsky. John wants to know, will there be any joint ticket packages for both 67s and Red Blacks?
Those are things we've been kind of planning for years, and I think there's going to be a lot of synergy. I mean, we launched Big Joe, our mascot, at a 67s game. We're going to have a 67s day at a Fury game when we get back to when we get to TD Place. And there's going to be a lot of interaction. There's going to be a lot of co-promotions between the three teams, and we are looking at different ideas right now on how we can, make special offers to 67s fans for Red Blacks or Fury tickets, and Red Black fans for Fury and 67s tickets, and on and on. Obviously that's one of the backbones of our business model, is that we have three professional sports teams that are all owned by the same group and play really in the same building. And so there are a lot of ideas around how we can, work together as three teams, and so look forward to a lot of stuff going on between the teams, and trying to maximize. If I can introduce, right now pushing on 16,000 Red Black season ticket holders to come to Ottawa 67s games, that's a great thing for the 67. That's a great asset. And, sports fans tend to be sports fans. So, there's a good fit there. So, yes, the answer, that's a long way of answering yes. We are going to be having lots of, co-promotions and interactions between the three teams.
Okay, and the next question is from Leah Ferron. She wants to know what sparked your hockey passion.
Well, I guess really, like probably most kids, I had a hockey stick and a pair of skates on my feet before I even knew what hockey was, and that's thanks to my father, who, was a huge hockey fan, and got my brother and I involved at a very young age, and we immediately loved it, and so I've played hockey my whole life. In fact, I'm playing today later, and loved the game, refereed, coached, and have probably more than anything been a huge fan, again, my whole life. And when I started my other business many years ago, for me, it was always a means to an end. I wanted to own a hockey team, and or own a sports team for sure, and hockey would have been my first choice. Football would have been my second, so things kind of worked out. But so anyway, when I sold my business in 1997, the opportunity came up to buy the Ottawa 67s, and so I can say I've had in my way of looking at it, I've had a whole life being involved in hockey.
Our next question comes from Tristy Sent. He says, you co-own a football team and own a hockey team. Would you buy the Clippers? They're in need of some proper ownership. Or do you have any advice for people who wish to own a team?
Well, I think the Los Angeles Clippers are worth about $600 million. So, no, that's nowhere near on our radar screen or my radar screen. And, really, the best advice, I mean, if you look at people who own sports teams, they all have had success or have built a business empire in most cases in other areas of life, whether it's real estate or high tech or what have you. And the success they've had in that business has given them the capital to invest in a sports team. I mean, sports franchises today are extremely expensive, as everybody knows, and it's it's well documented. It's in the paper what franchises sells for. You got the Toronto Maple Leafs worth in excess of $1 billion. So if you had a goal to own the Toronto Maple Leafs, you'd have to build a business and earn more than $1 billion, which isn't easy to do. So, you know, if one piece of advice is there's lots of other entry level. I mean, Junior A franchises in Ottawa, you know, would be you know, a much more accessible sports franchise to buy initially. And you know, one train of thought, I suppose, could be you could start small and work your way up, kind of thing. Although the next jump is pretty high. So again, probably the best advice is figure out how to make a lot of money.
Sounds like good advice to me. Our next question is from M. Sylvest. They're asking, how did you and OSEG initially react when you heard the complaints about Big Joe Mufferaw, considering there was such overwhelming online support of the moniker name prior to the announcement? Do you believe this scandal could have an effect on ticket or merchandise sales for the Ottawa Red Blacks?
Well, let me answer the second question first. Absolutely not. I mean, it certainly got a lot of debate and emotion. We live in a community that's unique to any other community that I know of, perhaps with the exception of Los Angeles, where we're a bilingual community, and you know, no other sports team really in Canada has to deal with those sensitivities, and it is a significant sensitivity. You know, it's one of those situations where we thought the Big Joe Mufferaw link to a French Canadian folk hero was going to be an asset. It turned out that some Francophone people, and many in the Francophone media in particular, felt that, well, you know, that obviously Joseph Mufferaw is a real French Canadian hero, and that it was to disrespect his memory and what he meant to French Canadian folklore, and you know, I understand that. I didn't see it coming, but when it was presented to me, you know, if Joseph Mufferaw was my grandfather, yeah, I might be a little bit sensitive to the issue. So I understand both sides of the equation, but the funny thing is, we really believed we would end up just calling him Big Joe anyway. Big Joe Mufferaw, or even Grand Joe Mufferaw would be a mouthful. So we always felt like it was going to evolve to Big Joe anyway. So in that regard, it was an easy fix, and it kind of solved the matter for the day. And you know, I'm sure people will always know now the origins of our mascot and its history, and I think, you know, hopefully people look at it as a tribute to a great Canadian French hero, but also a tribute to you know, an Ottawa Valley legend brought to life by Brian Bedore, the author who originally wrote the books. Bernie Bedore, I'm sorry, who originally wrote the books. So hopefully Big Joe, Grand Joe satisfies that, and he can go back to just being a fun mascot.
Sounds good. We're having a pretty good turnout, actually, for our first interview, so we only have time for one more question. And the next one is submitted by Curious. Wants to know, how do you feel about signing ex-NFL stars like Montreal did with Chad Johnson?
Well, I think, you know, the best way I could answer that is I feel good about signing great players wherever they might come from. You know, I know at times there's been some players that have come up from the NFL who've had some issues, and that's a different story. But you know, I think when you can make your team better and sign great players, that's what I'm sure our fans want us to do, and that's certainly what Marcel Desjardins wants to do.
All right, so that about wraps it up for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Jeff.
My pleasure.
And thank you to all of the viewers for tuning in and submitting your questions. Have a great day.